Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Ellensburg, Washington, USA, home of Central Washington University. I'm your host, Nick Zentner, and we are about to start another Geology 351 lecture. Looks like we're loud and clear, and you see a beautiful day, absolutely perfect day outside here. Too bad we can't go out today. Let's get you on camera here and say hi to a number of you. Hi, everybody. We have good vibes only happening here in the classroom, coming back after a long holiday weekend. You can see our extra chatter already. Let me get the blinds down so I don't overheat the camera. Where are you viewing from today? Before we begin this lecture, if you're watching this in replay, our talk will start in 10 minutes. And there'll be a bookmark placed at the beginning of our lecture. But we have 150 live viewers and more trickling in here for a learning session called Two Hell's Canyons. Media, Pennsylvania, Lancaster, UK. Joe is over there on campus, Hogue Hall. I think she's the only person on campus watching these programs. Hi, Joe. Ritzville, Washington, Leamington Spa, UK, Springfield, Oregon, Norman, Oklahoma, Boone, North Carolina, Camino Island, Washington, checking in, LaPorte, Minnesota, Winter Gardens, California. The room's suddenly quiet. These guys don't have to shut down. Come on. Dahlonega, Georgia, Denver, Colorado. Snohomish, Washington, hello Diane. Chehalis, Washington, hello Jim. Andes in Hillsboro, Oregon. Cloudy Lake, Ozark, says El Lipine. Vienna, Austria, hello. Forest Grove, Oregon. Jönköping, Sweden, that's Stefan, or Stefan. Don's up there in Fairbanks, Alaska. I suppose it's 65 degrees here Fahrenheit. Don, it's just glorious out there today. Regine is in Courtemanche, France. That's French. Portland, Oregon. New Brunswick, Rhode Island. Spokane County, 1 mile from Idaho, so that's damn near Idaho. Pat the pilot is in Natchez, Washington, USA. Hello, Pat. You taking your lunch break at work? Serge from Quebec, Canada. Pat Miller is in Yakima. Tri-Cities, Washington, damn near, is it damn near Alabama, or are you playing here? Damn near Alabama. Asheville, North Carolina, and so on. I think we're going to have Geology Club President James chatting with you after class today, because the Geology Club, led by James, had many vehicles and many participants spend the Memorial Day weekend down in Central Oregon. And the club is very healthy thanks to James's leadership and many other factors as well. But we'll see who we have today. We might have burned out people. We might have energized people. It feels like it's an energized group, but maybe they're faking it. I don't know. We'll think optimistically here today. So thanks to you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed today's lecture. There's Jack in the hat, Mr. Uplift himself. We have Nathan, an interloper. He doesn't even belong in here. But they're on their high from their trip. Can I ask one more time just quickly? Are we 5 by 5, please? Can't wear these white shirts, these light colored shirts. It's too much for the camera, I think. Delay in the comments. There we go. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and so it was a proposal. We had a proposal for our final project. Mind you, our final project is due Thursday, and the proposal just got graded. So, but it's a TA who was grading it, and he wrote me a comment and was like, "This sounds like a great idea. Just make sure to not self-plagiarize since you're doing something similar for another class." And I'm like, what? Like, that's not a real term. Self-plagiarism? Because I'm using my script that I used to make my, like, rare earth elements thing. Here you go. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. They're very good. Yeah. And then you got people in the band. Yeah. I'm like, you don't sound like no. But I've been like plugged up like the last 4 days with allergies, and I feel a lot better since I took an allergy gel. I'm good at that. I don't have any of the symptoms they said. So. I'm considering myself on. I think it's too fast. He's like, yeah, I just get reflex. I cannot be getting sick right now. I know, especially with the postal trip. Yeah. They're all like, oh, your throat could get scratchy, you'll have a headache, and
Literally, because I'm like, it's sliding off my lap. I was trying to, I was going up.
Joe, hey.
What is when you say 5 by 5? What do you mean by that for the live stream?
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Why 5 by 5 though?
And when I did those backyard things, a bunch of ham radio operators were typing 5 by 5, and I said, I don't know what that means. And they said, it means loud and clear.
So
it's become.
That's cool. I always wondered what you meant by 5. I was wondering if it was like the picture. I don't know idea, but that's cool. I didn't know that. Okay.
There's a bunch of little, hopefully they're not inside jokes, but they're just little things that we've carried over from that time. Indigo, good morning.
People in this damn department are named Nick or Nicole or Nicolette or Nick.
It's a problem. It's a real problem.
My blood pressure, I got so high that the thing started beating and flashing red. So that was awesome.
Is my driving going to be that bad?
No, not necessarily. It was just like other people. I had a Red Bull. I had a Red Bull, and then I had a Sweet bar. That was actually it. Going So you guys pulled out, everyone pulled out, like when you had to take a left up the grade, and then I got stuck behind 2 other cars, took a left, and then you take that curve onto the right, and the car in front of us is going 45, and it's like a 60 there. And so then, that was like, I was just at the end there, I was like, I just wanted to get there, and that's what I passed you guys too. I was just like, I was like, you guys got behind that car and there wasn't like quite enough space for me to get in, and then I was just like, and then I stayed up there, and then well, I was like, I'm gonna win behind this.
In the right lane.
Yeah, it's like, I was like, I'm not waiting behind this, and that's when I was like, and then I was like, let them go. And then I just, did Ariel respond? I didn't hear it. I remember someone say something after that. And then I was just cringing, but I figured at that point, like, everyone knows how to get back to campus,
Yeah.
fine.
That's why I didn't bother trying to catch you.
Yeah.
I've driven this road 100 times. I know how to get back.
Exactly.
Pretty much as soon as we were on the freeway. Yeah. There was one.
Well, did you see what I did? I came out nearly as bad now, but it was a gash. My sister's on.
It is high noon, young people, young people. I am encouraged. I'm encouraged. There's energy. There's honest to God energy in the room, and many of you are still on a high from your Memorial Day weekend trip. So many of you were down there together in Central Oregon. James, club president, round of applause for you for putting that trip together. James clapping for himself, awkward. All right, and James will be talking to the home crowd afterwards, and if anybody else wants to join James and talk about that wonderful trip to Central Oregon, you go right ahead. We'll share the mics and we'll do that. I want to do my best to ride the energy that's in this room. I'm excited about today, but I'm dependent upon you. I'm dependent upon you because there's new stuff, but also older stuff that we've been working on, and I'm dependent on you especially because it's been a little while since we've thought about the Snake River. So my first bold open, there's 2 bold opens, but my first bold open is I was all set. Like, when did I see you last? I saw you last on Thursday before the holiday weekend. I was all set to spend our last 4 lectures with Daysite. Bedrock in the High Cascades, Daysite in the river cobbles down low, Cooper Pass, Old Scap Mountain, Tandem Fence, that whole business. Gary Smith sent me a long email right after Thursday's lecture. He's jazzed. I was going to get into all of that. So I was all set to go. I had my head right, and I was ready to just dive in to this narrative going back and forth. And then I did my Zoom interview with Lydia Steisch Friday at noon. And it was good. And I asked you to watch it. And I asked you to read the new paper. It's really a Matthew Morris paper, 2025. My wife this morning at 5 o'clock, she has her routine, reading New York Times and reading NPR, like websites. She's like, oh, there's a Hell's Canyon thing. It's like, yeah, man, they just released the paper, and it's in the popular science outlets as well as the Lydia work that we did. So even though this was my plan, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it today. I want to save it until Thursday and our final 2 lectures next week. I have both Thursday afternoons figured out. I have the remaining 3 lectures figured out. I know what I want to do, and I'm excited about it. Upper Ellensburg. But that's not today. That's not today. Today, the bold open is, my mind is blown. I don't know if yours is. But to me, that conversation with Lydia Steisch involving 2 Hell's Canyons answers some questions that were lingering for me and maybe you from our discussions 2 weeks ago and then opens up a whole new set of ideas that I'm hoping to explore with you. So I'm not going to say anything more except the bold is two Hell's Canyon, an older Hell's Canyon and a younger Hell's Canyon, and whether it was Lydia talking with the newspaper about caves and nick points and river cobbles, or eventually in the Lydia conversation not related to the paper, talking off the record, essentially talking about stuff she hasn't even published on yet, but I applaud her for sharing with us. River sands, lava dams, we're back to that whole sort of thing, and we're right back into some of the narratives we had going a couple weeks ago. That's the opening. I'm leaning on you right now. How do you want to go? Can you start telling me about two Hell's Canyons? Can you define the title? What do I mean by that? What is the main narrative that we have established? Let's just see where you want to go with this. Gavin.
Kind of intriguing. You used old caves, like to try to figure out the dates.
She's talking about caves and she's talking about dates, but we're going to go there. But James, what is the title implying here? And what was Lydia trying to talk about in that interview?
That Hell's Canyon was formed in two different kind of stages.
Thank you. There's two distinctly different chapters for Hell's Canyon. And you can get on AI and Chat GPT and whatever you want before last week, and nobody's talking about an older Hell's Canyon, and then I guess nothing going on in Hell's Canyon, and then a newer story, a younger story. This is revolutionary. And for those of us who've been thinking about Hell's Canyon off and on for the last 30 years, this is a pretty big deal. And to clarify, the new paper is talking about the younger story, and the older story is, as she said in the interview, she's workshopping ideas with us. She's allowing us in on the scientific brainstorming using some data. So we're going there. Thank you, James. More opening reactions just in general about the Lydia thing, or do you want to go right into some of the details? Joe?
I'm a little confused on what nick points are.
Good.
I can't really understand from the video.
That's fine. So maybe that's all you guys are doing. Maybe you just want to do the details, and my job is to keep us going with some narratives. But we're still in kind of opening feeling. So there's a little confusion about what nick points are. Let's do that. Other reactions, just either things you're confused by or things you were especially interested in. And then I'll see what I can do after that. Courtney.
I really liked the paper, especially because we talk about older ideas from my last week about tectonic inflating geological activity involved with what was going on.
Right?
Especially how that involves the river. I was also confused about nick points because the paper really kind of emphasized how important those were for how dating things, and I don't really know what nick points.
Good. Well, let's get into what nick points are. Best I understand them. You saw the interview. I was confused about them as well. I couldn't remember the details. I can try with you. But yeah, so okay, I know what we're doing there. We want to talk about nick points a little bit. Tell me about the caves. Where were the caves? How do the caves fit into this at all? More voices here. Faye.
She found caves in Hell's Canyon that have created river sediments, and you basically show a record of when the incision happened, so when the water levels are that level.
She found caves in Hell's Canyon. Well, that's news. Let's stop right there. That's news. What was my big bold open maybe as recently as last time? Didn't I say I did say this last time. If you want to figure out the age of a canyon, you need to get out of the canyon and look for quieter deposits. Remember the sawdust business? Or if you want to figure out the age of the uplift of the Cascades, you need to get out of the Cascades. And that was the whole idea of the upper Ellensburg down in Seal and other places. Well, this new paper is in frickin' Hell's Canyon. That's exciting. You can find information in the canyon itself, but primarily it's the two things that we're starting to talk about now. Caves that have been found and nick points that have been measured in Hell's Canyon. Thank you for that. So the caves are up above. We're in Hell's Canyon. More about what you think you understand about the caves, and then I want to do something on the chalkboard just to make sure we have it. Chris.
Well, I thought it was interesting that in the paper it mentioned that the cave fluvial deposits that come from the corridor of the now north or south and north flowing Snake River might have suggested that there had been a previously like drainage divide between two separate alluvial systems, and I was just wondering like what that really was.
I don't know if they got that from the caves, but let's stay with the caves right now, and then we'll make some regional implications. Jack.
The oldest sediment would be in the highest, the cave that would be higher than, say, a cave below it, because the cave below it would have the youngest sediment.
God,
Sediment's close to the bedrock.
you can see that. Jack's on this again. He liked the uplift thing because he can see the timing things vertically, and he's on it again. So let's not screw around much more. I'm going to keep coming to you. This is good. So this is part of what I want to do. Hello. Somebody has locked. Thank you. So I think I want to do, we'll see if this works, but I think most of today is going to be 3 boards at the same time. If I can get them all on camera and if I can make them all visible to you, which is most important. Is this going to work? Can you see all 3 of these at the same time? I hope so. So I want to talk about Hell's Canyon in profile. I want to do something with stratigraphic columns. I had this brainstorm this morning. We'll see if it works. Where we have a stratigraphic column in the western Snake River Plain, a place we know as Lake Idaho, Clarkston, Washington, which shockingly is in the discussion. I haven't given one thought to Clarkston, Washington, which is right across the river from Lewiston, Idaho. That's a big deal. And then our area we've been thinking about most recently, the Yakima, Washington area. And I want to do some things stratigraphically between those 3 locations. At the same time, we'll see if it works, but I think I want to do something with the map of the Pacific Northwest as well, which I think is going to be familiar to us. We're going to be into red and blue again. So this is all hopefully going to work together. All right, let's try this first. We're still with the brand new paper that just came out on Tuesday of last week, a week ago today. And it's interesting how news outlets grab something, they write up a little piece on it, then that gets triggered by other news outlets. I'm kind of interested in how science is communicated to everybody. And this, you might see more and more about this Hell's Canyon thing, all coming from Matthew's paper. It was really Matthew's paper, as you saw from the Lydia interview. Lydia's a small part of it. She was careful to say that right away. Okay, so there's an uppercase, so we're in Hell's Canyon. By the way, does anybody know anything about the bedrock of Hell's Canyon? This is off the board. This has got nothing to do with what you read or heard. Jess?
Well, from what I read, it was limestone, right?
There is some limestone. Do you know anything more?
Mostly, it's the exotic terrain stuff of the Blue Mountains on the bottom. I think there's some Columbia basalts on the top.
There are. Good, yeah.
That's I don't remember the specific, but the exotic terrains are fairly metamorphosed or igneous rocks that are pretty hard to get through.
Well done. So Jess and Indigo are helping us. Again, I didn't expect anybody to know that. Hell's Canyon, can you remember? I'm just going to keep going back and forth. Hope you can see all 3 of these boards. I'm reminding you, Hell's Canyon is right in here, where we have the state line between Idaho and Oregon primarily. This is the deepest part of Hell's Canyon. What's the river today in Hell's Canyon? The Snake River. The Snake River, you remember, is coming through southern Idaho. The Snake River is getting to Indigo's house at Tri-Cities, and it joins the Columbia, and that water goes out to the Pacific. I just impulsively said, what's the bedrock of Hell's Canyon? Essentially, the upper half of the walls of Hell's Canyon are Grand Ronde. They're the German chocolate cake with a little bit of barely Ellensburg in it. But what's important to us today is that below my arm, the lower half of the walls of Hell's Canyon are exotic bedrock, in many cases, quite stubborn, hard, metamorphic rock. Yes, Jess, some of them are limestones, the Martin Bridge limestone most famously, which came from the other side of the Pacific. Don't ask, that's a whole nother tangent. It's wild, it's wild. But I think the thing that's most important, and you maybe heard it in the Lydia chat, she's like, it's hard to get through that metamorphic rock. It's hard to grind. Again, I'm really feeling playful. Did anybody, my ears perked up when she talked about what she thought was a major element of a river to allow it to cut through very hard metamorphic rock. Matthew? The tools. What was she describing? Boulders, so I don't know where I've been, but I never thought of that. That a river can carve successfully through some of the hardest metamorphic rock that we have if the river bed load is a bunch of sand, cobbles, and even boulders, and the water is literally using these things like this to just go apeshit on the bedrock down below and carve.
Carving rock with rock.
Carving rock with rock.
It's like tumbling rocks. Like when you
I guess it's tumbling rocks. By the way, these are, I went out yesterday looking for field spots, and I found the most gorgeous day sites. I mean, I thought I'd really have to hunt. Like, you know, I haven't been thinking about these day sites much at all. And then I'm going out by Beatus Road, not far from here, last night, right before sunset. I'm like, oh my God, these hornblends are gorgeous. So these day sites with hornblends really are spectacular. I can't hold it. So that's coming next week. But they're all up here in case you're getting more and more curious about day sites, which has got nothing to do with today's lecture. But the idea is that these rocks are stones. The rocks are carving rocks. Okay, back to the main points of the new paper, which again you'll read about if you follow the news. What's in the caves again? Yeah, river sediment, graded beds, other things. I just want to call it sand, okay? River sand. I just want to call it river sand. What's in the Snake River today, especially before the dams were constructed in Hell's Canyon? A bunch of river sand. We've all been to a river, right? We've all been beautiful, hot summer day. You pull the rafts out. You got a beautiful sandbar. You're going to take a nap out there, drink some beer or whatever. That's a thing in rivers. There's cobbles in rivers. There's point bars. There's gravel bars. But there's also these beautiful river sands. That's not an exotic concept, right? Okay, so this guy Matthew, it wasn't Lydia, and again, she was careful to point this out. This guy Matthew did his PhD on Hell's Canyon. He's an outdoors person. He's like Luke. He's with his tivas all over the place. He found 30 different caves. 30. That was just one sentence in the paper, but I'm going to believe it. And he was inventorying a bunch of these caves and carefully looking at the sand. So Jack just said it, but can I hear it from somebody else for clarification, please? What is important about this river sand at these three different cave levels, upper, middle, and lower? Alita. There should be an age pattern that this should be the oldest sand, the mid-level down to the youngest sand. Why? This is almost like an inverted rainbow thing, I guess. Alita, again, why would we get sand deposits getting younger as we go down? The river's lowering through time, or the land is lifting against the river. It doesn't make a difference. It's the same concept, right? As we're cutting deeper and deeper into Hell's Canyon with the Snake River, we should have younger and younger sand as we go lower and lower with the caves. Does this concept work for everybody? I hope you followed that with the discussion. I had to kind of hunt for it in the paper. I don't mean to be critical, I thought it could be a little bit easier to find, or maybe I just couldn't find it. I relied more on just eyeballing the graphs that he had in the paper. Does anybody have any ages for any of these caves in the sand? Julie?
5.55 on the upper.
Yeah, that's what I got too. So this is 5.5 million years old. Anybody else got anything? Seen? Yeah, now we might get into some. So here's my eyeballing from those graphs. I don't know if you found 2.1 in the tech. Oh, no. 2.1 is definitely different.
1.7 is what she said in the video.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go with what she said in the video. This might be wrong, but this is what I tried to deduce from reading the graph and look at the elevations as well. Is it important to put the elevations on? I guess so. I love this. I love this for so many reasons, and that's why we're spending a full day on this. The upper cave I converted to feet. is 1,240 feet above the river, not above sea level. 1130 above the river. And 780 feet above the river. Pretty sure that's above the river according to that plot. For a while I thought it was above sea level, but I don't think it is. Okay, we haven't talked about nick points yet, but just by using 3 caves at different elevations, all at different elevations above the river, with different ages of sand, and somebody want to quickly talk about how they figured out the age of the sand? Who haven't we heard from yet? Austin.
Has to do with,
It's hard to explain.
yeah, it's,
I screwed you up, I'm sorry.
sun, like, when sun is like hitting like rock and stuff,
Right.
it leaves something, like, yeah, like sunburn.
Sunburn, solar radiation,
radiation.
cosmic radiation.
And you're able to see like, okay, so when did this like river sand
Yeah.
stop getting radiation?
Bombarded with the, right. Nick, anything to add here?
No, I just remembered cosmogenic dating from Jeff last year on the spring trip.
And what was the context there?
Dating riverbeds,
Riverbeds.
saying the sediment is this old because it's been exposed for this long.
Good. So you can do this with riverbeds, with river sand. I guess this is riverbeds as well. I'm familiar from the Ice Age floods country where we have a boulder brought in by the Missoula floods, and then you try to figure out how many years the boulder's been sitting there. And you literally sample the surface of the boulder. You look at parent-daughter isotope relationships and measure how many years cosmic rays have been bombarding that surface. The cool thing here is that these are like tiny boulders that have been bombarded by cosmic rays until they get brought into the dark cave. And then the system shuts down. I find that wild. Okay, so what's the 2.1 scene? I don't think it's the age of the river. 2.1 is in the abstract. 2.1 is the headline. I don't even know if I care about nick points, to be honest with you. I think we're going to scrap that. Let's just get to the 2.1. James, this is your day.
At 2.1, the river carving rate is 0.159 millimeters a year, so it's like a rapid acceleration.
Rapid acceleration. Chris really wants to talk about nick points. Hang on, let me put you on hold and we'll come right to you. The headline is that Hell's Canyon, which 2 weeks ago, what was our number? 3. Our number is that Hell's Canyon has been carved in the last 3 million years. And that's what's been known as long as I've been around. When I became a geology major at the University of Wisconsin, and I was your age in 1984, that's a long time ago now, I was starting to learn about the American West, and I remember reading about the age of Hell's Canyon, and I was shocked at how young. I never even really thought about how old a river canyon is. I guess I thought all river canyons were super old for some reason. I'm like, 3 million years? I'm back in Wisconsin, not on this map, where the rock layers are like 400 million years old. You're telling me the Hell's Canyon wasn't even a canyon until starting 3 million years ago? 3 million years. Write it down in my Mead spiral notebook. Get a B- on my exam, everything's great. That's what I've been teaching until Friday. And I thought possibly, you heard me say this to Lydia, I thought possibly the new paper was going to say Hell's Canyon was older than 3. To explain what? You willing to play with me? Are you with me at all? Another curveball from me. We talked about Lydia and her fieldwork in central Washington. Why were we talking about Lydia Steisch at the Saddle Mountains, Joe?
Because there was Snake River sediment that was 7 million.
7 million, Joe, right out of 101. Strong pull there, nice. There was, I'll make them red. Have I done this? I think I did. There's red sand, you know what I mean, at frickin' Othello. Remember Crab Creek? We met with who was with us? Sky and Andrew. Met you guys next to that thing. So that is 7 million year old Snake River sand. I'm really freelancing now, but please stay with me. I thought maybe the new paper was going to say Hell's Canyon is as old as 7 million years old, and that allows us to get Snake River sand to central Washington. I was like mentally prepared for that. And then we start the interview. I think she sent me the paper Friday morning. And what's the headline? The headline is, a majority of Hell's Canyon started to cut when? Seen? Oh, see, this is your moment. 2.1. This is old 2.1 seen. That's all you got to say the rest of today. Anytime I call in, you just say 2.1 without even knowing what's going on. How many donuts are you going to eat over at the Cirque after this class? 2.1. Thank you for helping them. Oh, Jesus, okay. We can't even do that. All right. Thank you, Jess. The headline from the paper, and that will be distributed among the mass media for the next few weeks, is that Hell's Canyon is younger than 3 million years old. And if you just got to get it down to one sentence, it's 2. The majority of Hell's Canyon, I suppose the way it's presented, it'll say all of Hell's Canyon, is carved in 2 million years' time. Based on what, Chris? What you get? Little secret now. Little secret. Rarely do I call at this point in the class. Rarely do I call on you just cold. I call on you because you just said something 10 minutes ago, and it should be ready to go. Scene, what's your favorite number?
It's not 2.1.
We have rebellious characters in the room. Chris, what would you like to talk about right now? Oh, you'd like to talk about neck points. Okay, very good. So the age of the sand in the caves, as well as studying the nick points. And as far as my knowledge of nick points, I'm out of chalkboard room here. Let's just do it weirdly where you were meeting the random dude in Central Oregon. It's a sunny day, and here's a river, and there's a major change in the profile of the river. The river has a low angle to it. If you want to think about rafting down a river or being in a canoe, you're just cruising along, whatever, daydreaming, and then suddenly you pick up major speed. And as Lydia said in the interview, there's even rapids, or sometimes a major change in the slope of the bedrock in the floor of the river. That's a nick point, spelled that way. It's no longer on the board, but you've got it written down, hopefully. And the nick point can be measured. The nick point is actually going to change its position, and the nick point measurements and modeling combined with the ages of the river sands give us this number of 2.1. That's the extent of my knowledge. You can add to my knowledge. Scene.
I think you mentioned in the interview that there's cupping.
There's cupping with the profiles. There's cupping here. So here's one little cup and here's another little cup. I think she was talking about that. And the intersection or the boundary between those two cups, I think the cups are less important than the slopes, where we dramatically change the slope. And as I was saying in the interview, this is an eating back story. It's weird to put an arrow like this when we have a river flowing right to left, but we're eating our way eastward or upriver to ultimately capture a whole nother drainage. It's a fascinating set of ideas that I only have basic understanding of. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, she defined it as where equilibrium is disrupted.
Equilibrium is disrupted. That's unsatisfying to me. I know that's a statement, but it sounds so vanilla to me. I feel like I'm missing something, or like what can you, I think I was pushing for that. What can we then do to explain a major disruption in the equilibrium of the river, Chris? Yes, the nick point studies helps it helps document this acceleration. So if you, I don't think I have room to draw it, but I think the idea, correct me if you think that I'm off here, that the river's up here, 5.5, the river's here, 2.8, and by the time we get to 2.1, we accelerate the cutting. I think that's the story. That we do have a little bit of a canyon. That's news to me. We do have these open caves that have river sands of different ages. There must be some kind of canyon in the early days. It's not like nothing and then massive cutting, which is cartoonishly what I've always taught. So it's this 2.1 threshold where suddenly, I wrote it down, 17 times faster, the cutting power, the cutting rate, or the incision rate, suddenly accelerates 17 times into this hard metamorphic rock with the tools bashing away. So something's going on 2.1 million years ago, according to this new paper. I don't think they really went there and tried to explain it necessarily, but it's an interesting addition of some data that we didn't have before. And younger than 3, that's the whole point of the new paper. Faye?
Does this midpoint thing and like the shapes and slope of this, like, is that related to the 2 hypotheses that she talked about with like Idaho filling up or the other one of the eroding from the other side?
They do. The question from Faye is, do the nick points and the study of nick points help in understanding the 2 competing ideas? Let's try the 2 competing ideas. And you're not going to get much more from me on nick points because I don't understand them beyond what I'm saying. I think I get the feeling some of you do more than I do, but I'm okay with that. I just want to keep moving on. For a couple of reasons, but one of them is I know where I want to go. I want to go to this beautiful, I think it's beautiful. This is what I'm most excited about today. We haven't even gotten to the older story yet. What's the bold open? Hell's Canyon. The title is 2 Hell's Canyons. For those keeping score at home, we're still at the young Hell's Canyon story, and the headline is, it's younger than you thought. Hell's Canyon is young, 3 million years. Now it's younger than you thought. 2 million years we're going to cut most of Hell's Canyon. And the idea is that, I'm going to go fast because we know this already. Lake Idaho, before we do a major amount of cutting in Hell's Canyon, is here. That's where Lydia was in the hotel room a week and a half ago. And at the same time, do you remember? We had Lake Ringgold in central Washington. What was the key piece of evidence that we were talking about in class 2 weeks ago between the 2 lakes and then connecting the 2 lakes? The fish, Nick, thank you. The fish. And that's now suddenly old school. Like when they weren't talking about the nick points, they weren't talking about the caves. I don't think anybody knew about the caves. They were talking about fish populations that were isolated, and then suddenly, roughly 3 million years ago, we have cold water salmon getting all the way through and the lakes are gone. Roughly 3. Now we're adding to that story, changing it, and you're like, oh, I had it 2 weeks ago. You know this is science. That's why these exciting papers come along and you update your knowledge. Sometimes you completely contradict what you just thought you knew 2 weeks ago. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do in this class. So do the nick points help us distinguish between what were the 2 models, what were the 2 ideas? Lydia and Jim favored one versus the other. Just thinking about the disappearance of Lake Idaho. Can somebody do that quickly? Alita. Not quite yet with the dam. So we have a lake, and then suddenly the lake goes away, and Faye's trying to get us to thinking about the 2 competing ideas to explain the disappearance of the lake. What's one, Matthew?
The old Hell's Canyon receded back enough to capture more watershed, or the lake drained into dumping more cobbles.
Matthew's giving us both, and I don't think we even need to worry about when. I think we can just think about the younger story right now. I just think with the younger story, it's a question of, are we just getting too much water in this lake to finally have it overtop and spill and cut? This is where I said, are these really competing ideas? And she said, yeah, these are competing ideas. The other idea is that it's not really overtopping this barrier, but it's just eating further and further upstream with erosion. And nick points, that position of the nick point continues to go upstream as we cut more and more until we finally just eat our way back to Lake Idaho and then just drain it by simply getting rid of the barrier. But we're starting to get confused. I can feel it right now, because now we are starting to think about the older story. That's what C wants to do right now, I think. 2.1?
2.1. No, I was interested in hearing what you had to say with the story that includes, it's not just a vertical story, but it's also a horizontal story. I'd never thought of that either. But that was
It's new. It's a new thought that I had in the moment with her, and to me, it's more satisfying to think of the horizontal capture business. But I've got my eye on the clock. Nick,
Sorry, just to
you're
clarify.
good.
So one of the ideas is that it ate back into the lake.
Yes.
And the other one is that the lake flooded into the canyon.
It's less, to be honest, it's less satisfying to me, and yet Lydia and Jim like it more. As I understand it, there's not much of a canyon there, but the water is overtopping this barrier, whatever the barrier is, and the increased energy in suddenly running water leaving the area is doing the cutting. But you're saying, wouldn't you need a big drop, and therefore wouldn't you need a big canyon to have the water fall into? Well, then I think that screws up both ideas. All right, moving on. Thank you. The energy is here. I'm riding the energy now, and I think we are going to try this. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? Here's how we're going to do it. Yakima is here. Clarkston is right here. Clarkston, Washington is damn near Idaho. It's right across the river from Lewiston, Idaho. It's basically just north of where the Snake River comes out of Hell's Canyon. This is important. So Clarkston is the big news for the rest of today. And if you're thoroughly confused, we're transitioning now to the brand new, spitballing, older Hell's Canyon story. And that gets us back to the time frame that we've been thinking about. Indigo, what are the two numbers for Gary Smith's time frame with the Upper Ellensburg from last week? 11 to 7, or 7-Eleven, your favorite convenience store. With the Slurpee, we go from 11 to 7. That's the time frame that we've been with Gary Smith, and we will continue to be really for the rest of the class. 11 to 7. So with this last 15 minutes of today, I want to go essentially 11 to 7, but even a little bit younger. You with me? But I want to compare, that's too big. Let's make boxes. Yakima, Washington, Clarkston, Washington, Lake Idaho. Can I make these boxes for you for your notes? I think there's a chance this is going to work. Just give me a chance. It's not only going to clarify the older emerging story by Lydia and Jim, but I think it's also going to set us up beautifully for Thursday and our field trip on Thursday, which I'm especially excited about. Okay, one more time. We got strat columns from Yakima, Clarkston, and Lake Idaho. You're not out of the woods. You've got notes from this older part of the story as well. Let me get you started. 11.81, that's a famous number for us. Well, what is it? CPT-7. And what lava flow is directly above this Cougar Point Tuff 7? Pomona, thank you. That's going to be a big deal for us Thursday afternoon as well as next week. So I've struggled with this, but now I think I just want to make peace with it. Barb Nash has an 11.81 age for the CPT-7. We all went to it at the Saddle Mountains Quarry. we couldn't find the Pomona, but it apparently pinched right out in there. And if you go regionally, the Pomona is just screwing with the CPT7 all the time. So I'm just going to think of them both as the same age. You want me to do it? I'll do it. 11.81 for the CPT7, 11.81 for the Pomona. I don't really know if that's right, but for our purposes, this is a package deal. Pomona and or CPT7. Again, in the quarry, we had the CPT7, we didn't have the Pomona. When we drive to Silo Thursday afternoon, we're going to see right out the car window on I-82, the Pomona sitting right on top of CPT7, baby. It's right there. I'm going to try a trick. I think it's going to work. I want to call that the kitchen table. I want to call the Pomona the kitchen table. And we're going to have layers of upper Ellensburg always on top of this base, which is the kitchen table. So we have a kitchen table surface. Think of your favorite kitchen table, maybe your home kitchen table, with all those beautiful meals on it. And the kitchen table is 11.81. Well, that kitchen table is also at Clarkston. $10.81 is another one of our friends, the Elephant Mountain. Which is more important at Clarkston, but less important in Yakima, even though it is in the Yakima area. And just for completeness, the CPT 11 is 11 point, you may be committed to memory for the midterm, 11.22, thank you. So more reasons that I love the CPT and the relationship between the CPT and the overlying lava flows. So those are such pleasing benchmarks. Even though the Pomona is not in every place, even though the Elephant Mountain's not in every place, in this case, the Elephant Mountain is a dominant story in Washington, and it's a good place to keep track of time. Who's got their hand up here? We okay? All right. So I'm building to this. What is the basis? What is the core of the emerging new Hells Canyon story? What data? We have to have this. You got to be shitting me. Julie, you need the question the first time, Nick. Okay, I guess nobody had. My fault. Let me try to ask the question again. There is an older Hells Canyon story, entertaining an idea that there's actually an older version of Hells Canyon to explain getting some red sands and red cobbles to the Clarkston Heights area. So I just answered my own question, I think, but go ahead, Joe.
Is it where it goes to the east of the Rockies and goes over?
Okay, I'm still not framing this right. Thank you for participating. Why not just do it? In the conversation, Lower Monumental. No, I'm still not satisfied. I want to come again. What is the age range of the gravels, the cobbles, and the sand at Clarkston Heights that got Lydia very interested in an older Hells Canyon story? Faye?
Did she say she used Archons to tell 6 to 10?
Yes, thank you. So she casually, in the conversation, and you're like, I didn't see this in the paper. It's not in the paper. The paper doesn't exist. We're getting the inside scoop, which is often a no-no among professional scientists. They don't want to talk openly about something they're working on. Do you know why? Someone's going to steal it. There's literally people in science who are that way. It's happened all the time, usually with a bunch of white males 30 years ago, but whatever. It's not a good look. So possibly things are changing now, and you can actually share your work in progress and not get ripped off somehow. I hope that she and Jim won't be whatever. So there are, and this was a part, and she showed us some maps, which were a little bit harder to see, but my basic message is she's got a bunch of beautiful river cobbles between 10 million years ago and 6 million years ago here at Clarkston. And there's a bunch of sand in there as well. And it's the sand. Remember now, Jim is the cobble guy and Lydia is the sand person. And they're working together to tell the story. What is the excitement about these sands and cobbles between 10 and 6? What's the interesting question? Julie?
Didn't she say they were older than the Elephant Mountain?
She misspoke, and I've learned as an interviewer not to correct somebody in front of God and everybody. Yeah, she said it backwards, but we can see that they're sitting on top of the Elephant Mountain and below the lower mountain. My question to you is, what is the interesting question? Are we missing in the last 5 minutes the excitement here? I think we might be. Luke, you want to try? What's the excitement here?
Maybe it's we're seeing erosion, older erosion than the 2.1 in Hell's Canyon. So this almost proves there's older erosion because there's sediment from Hell's Canyon.
Thank you, Luke, but it's better than that. There's not only some old rivers and some old sand. What did she say about the source of this stuff at Clarkston?
It's from over in the corner of Idaho and Montana.
The corner of Idaho, otherwise known as the Western Snake River Plain. So I thought maybe we were going to be self-propelled and get there, but I don't think we're quite there. I appreciate the participation today. I think I need to drive the rest of the way to make sure we can do this in 5 minutes. Hang on now, this is going to be fast. Can I do it? I'm not quick enough to have a new color scheme. You don't want another new color scheme anyway. Here we go. Lydia says, my God, we've got whatever it is, hundreds of vertical feet of river stuff that's between 10 and 6. And it's a new discovery at Clarkston. Let me sample all these cobbles. Let me sample all this zircon sand and figure out where it all came from. It came from here. It came from the Western Snake River Plain. And so she's like, it's definitely river, and it's definitely coming from here. How am I going to get it from here to here? I need to have it come through Hell's Canyon between 10 and 6. When I guess the Hell's Canyon is just a modest little canyon and not a big deep thing like it is today. Today, Hell's Canyon's deeper than the Grand Canyon. And in the interview, after she explained this beautiful thing, I said, maybe you caught it, well, do you need your northern river anymore? Because we talked 2 weeks ago to explain the red sands that are gone now in this map to have, remember, the snake doing a northern route and getting to us. And what I meant by, do you need your northern river anymore, by simply saying, you've got this Snake River sand right here, like, can't you just button hook it in there? And she said, no. Does anybody know why? Gavin?
Isn't it because we would probably see different rocks if it came from the northern part? Like we would probably see...
Kinda. A little bit more head on, somebody? Here it is. She says, no, I need the northern because most of the grains of sand up by Othello, Saddle Mountains, are from the eastern Snake River Plain, Nick, not the western Snake River Plain. It's the Snake River Plain, but there's fundamental different rock types and therefore different ages and different zircons with the eastern and the western. So she's got, do you need me to write it? So at Clarkston, she has western Snake River Plain sand. And at Othello, which isn't even on this map, she has eastern Snake River Plain sand, which according to Joe is starting to show up 7 million years ago, and I agree with you. So her 10 to 6 million-year-old batch of western Snake River Plain sand at Clarkston, she doesn't know how to get it there unless there's some kind of older Hells Canyon story. I find this wild and intoxicating, and I have to finish with my own statement. You remember the Jim O'Connor interview, and some of you stuck with it right to the very end. And Jim was saying, I've got something revolutionary down by Indigo's house at Richland. And I've got the Snake River flowing north to collide with the Columbia, and then they go over the Horse Heaven Hills, which don't exist yet. If you have a great memory, we were talking about golden quartzites, and he says, why wouldn't the Snake River just join the Columbia at Mabton? I know you don't know where it is, but I'm showing you roughly where it is. And I was like, why are you talking about the Snake River going north like 6 million years ago, before the Simcoe volcanics and all that stuff? And I just let it go because I thought I must have been confused. I wasn't confused. These guys want an earlier Hells Canyon to have the Snake River flow north from Richland to Sunnyside before it hooked up with the Columbia. So they have a working model with an older Hells, a younger Hells, and then, yeah, maybe some kind of lava dam or something to like choke the whole thing.
Would that be the Simcoe?
Would it, well, I don't know. Hello, Jack? No, because the timing's wrong. Simcoe is 4-1, and we like the Simcoe for blocking and making the Lake Ringgold, the younger Lake Ringgold. So why are we basically stopping this older version younger than 6? It's kind of like between 6 and 4, what's going on? And maybe we can even bring that over here in the last couple of weeks of class. Why don't we have Upper Ellensburg 6 to 4? This is new to me right now, just writing this out. So I'm out of time, but they have Lake Idaho as essentially a 10 to 6, and then the younger story as well. So the older Hells Canyon and the younger Hells Canyon, there's a whole older Lake Idaho bed story that has been overlooked by us to work with this younger story. Man, to me, this is the best result of a class like this, where we just get started, we don't know where we're going, and something bubbles up like this, which I think, at least in geology of the Pacific Northwest, they're going to be talking about this for the next 20 years. And we're on day 3 of them even making this public. I can feel people want to keep talking about this, so if you have to go, great, we'll see you on Thursday. But otherwise, let's just do a little bit of a little bonus discussion for those that want to stick around. And I'll just try to repeat your question for the home crowd before James takes his victory lap. Jess?
Where's Yellowstone? Where's the hotspot?
Yellowstone is moving through this whole thing. And so that works with their story. So Yellowstone, the temporary high of Yellowstone, what are we most concerned about? 10 to 6. It's Twin Falls, so we have the subsidence, we have the low spot to make the Lake Idaho, the older Lake Idaho story. And then as we move Yellowstone to 4 or 3, suddenly eastern Snake River Plain grains are starting to come in as well. But we block it somehow to then force the northern route.
So we're just pausing it, right? We've got it.
We're pausing it. That's a good way to say it. We've got this whole thing started. This whole older Hells Canyon thing started. We got the river, just spitballing, we've got the river where we want it. We've got the canyon starting to cut. That's perfect. You just put the whole thing on pause. Yet let Yellowstone move, do the northern thing. What's with the pause?
Could the CRBs have blocked it?
This is a perfect example of how it's creative to think of new ideas, and then you go, but they're too young, or they're too old. So remember that our grand rounds are 16. We're done with the CRBs, except for a couple piddly guys. See, this is perfect. You just play with ideas, and then you immediately shut yourself down when you think of the timing of this. Chris?
I just wanted some clarity for the stuff Jim talked about that they found in the Ringo Formation in the cobble. Is that coming from the eastern Snake River Plain, or is that also coming from Hell's Canyon?
Jim's cobbles where?
In the Ringo Formation?
In the Ringgold, Jim had cobbles. He mostly had golden quartzites, the greenstones. Forgot about the greenstones.
So, is that part of a younger Hell's Canyon deposit?
I don't think so. I don't know, but I think, without saying it explicitly, he was hinting at this older story before I learned from Lydia the detail. So I'll just go ahead and say, I think it's likely that his greenstone cobbles. Jim, you watching this one? Can you help Chris out? I think the greenstones are older than 6, but not part of this younger. Because we're not even depositing cobbles, are we? The younger story, the stuff's just cruising through. I don't think we even have a bunch of river cobbles with the younger Hells thing.
Well, I was just thinking if there's 2 Lake Idaho stories, like,
I'm confirming that. I think it's an older one.
aren't we going to have some sort of cobbles or other large deposition left over saying like there was stuff moving at some point?
Chris is wondering, aren't we going to have a bunch of cobbles in southern Washington with the younger Hells Canyon story as well? Maybe not, Chris, because if we're going crazy with our cutting starting 2, we're successfully getting everything to the ocean. And maybe that's a new thought. I like it. In the older story, I think everything's maybe subtle. And that works with the narrative we've had. Remember? Our ridges are still subtle until recently. Our canyons are subtle until recently. So maybe this older, more subtle story is a narrative across the region. I like this more and more in the last 3 seconds of thinking about it. And then maybe this 2.1 million year switch, Sean hates that number 2.3. Why do I keep looking at him with 2.1? He's disgusted. Maybe that 2.1, Chris, is, I think everybody agrees, is the major switch, is the major uplift. And so I think we're done just laying Easter eggs all over the ground, because we're confining those things to these new canyons, which are deep. God, this is good stuff. Come on now. Obviously it is. Half of you are still here. Indigo.
Why do they want the snake to not just go the normal way? Or at least, normal way, the modern route. When and where? No, sorry. So you've got this, after that, then there's you drew this second line in white. That you said going through my house, dumping into Sunnyside. Why?
Yeah.
When is that and why is that? I just got a little lost.
It's okay, because I went fast at the end. I'm still kind of loose in my head, if I'm totally honest. In Jim's interview, he was talking about the Columbia going straight southwest from Sunnyside to the Dalles. And I'm like, oh, does that mean there was no Horseheaven Hills? He's like, yeah. So that's before 3. Before 3 million years ago, let's say before 4. Before 4 million years ago, before the Simcoe, before the Horseheaven Hills, we have the Columbia's not coming to your house. Before 4. There's no Columbia coming to your house. There's probably a snake, according to Jim's view, coming north by your backyard, but the Columbia is not coming by. Hang on, but then Jim says something happens, maybe 3, where we start lifting the Horseheaven Hills and we suddenly move the Columbia to your house. And therefore the snake is not coming north up the Yakima Valley anymore. Okay, now I'm remembering he says, do you really expect a ridge to just push a river? I'm like, no, I guess not. That's where he wanted what? The Simcoe was damming. Why would the Simcoe cause the river to go to Indigo's house?
Because you have the snake of the plate already, so you have the lower elevation, so it might kind of meander that way, I guess.
I thought it had to do with the dayside guns collapsing, causing the change.
Well, that was in that conversation too. Older people thought that all the dayside coming out was pushing the river to Indigo's house, but he didn't like that either. I'm missing something he said. I don't think he has that written up either.
Just making sure that I'm not misunderstanding.
I'm confused right now, so you can say anything.
So the line you drew through Southern Oregon going up Wallula Gap or whatever, I'm just making up, like that line is that what he wants, or does he still want the snake to be going up to Pullman and then going, or I think Pullman is where it turns?
I can't follow you. All I'm saying right now is that he wants the Columbia and the snake like that, and then at some point it's today's situation.
Great, so you were just not being as, it was not, you didn't mean specifically where you put the lines.
Please stop, because I don't know what I'm saying. Scene.
They mentioned in the paper 4.3.
4.3 in the new paper.
Yeah, not 2.1. East and west come together. They're separated up until that point. And I was confused.
4 point. That was in the new paper with Hell's Canyon?
Yeah.
4.3.
Part of the figure, they mentioned that.
Oh, yeah.
Is it one of the caves?
Hill shape with the
It's on right here.
Viewers, James is still here, biting his nails. Okay. Right. Thank you. Lydia's talking about, and Matthew is talking about, the Yellowstone High is separating eastern and western Snake River Plains. And so there's no eastern Snake River Plains coming through Hell's Canyon. But by 4.3, we're to my old stomping grounds where the Heisey Volcanic is. Now we can actually send eastern Snake River Plain sand into Lake Idaho and eventually flush it through, and they can see that in the zircons. Thanks. Good stuff, good stuff. Thank you for your energy today. All right. Anybody want to join James? Thanks, everybody. If you're still with us, we're going to have James, the Geology Club president, talk about the recent Geology Club trip, which was a huge hit. And then I'll talk with you all a little bit more after that, if you're still with us. James, let's go to the door.
Black camera.
Why don't you just sit? You want me to interview you?
You can start me off at least.
Okay. How long you been in this department, and how long have you been leading the Geology Club?
I have been in the department since fall of 2021, straight out of high school. So this is my last year here. I'll be graduating in 19 days if I am counting correctly. I've been leading the Geology Club since around March last year. But the year before that, I was involved as the public relations officer.
Good.
So I've been in the leadership roles of GEOL Club for the second half of my time here at Central.
And where did you go to high school?
I graduated from R.A. Long High School in Longview, Washington, Southwest Washington. But I mainly grew up in Woodland, Washington.
Nice.
So Southern Washington for sure.
Okay. I think these guys will be interested in hearing about your trip over Memorial Day weekend, and maybe folks will want to ask James about the trip once you hear a little bit of detail, or your experiences here, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so yeah, this past weekend was our third GEOL Club spring trip 3 years ago. We had an amazing former club president, Philip. He wanted to do this weekend spring trip as kind of like a culminating event for the club. And so that year we went to the Dust Devil Mine in southeastern Oregon. Last year we went to a Star Garnet Mine in Clarkia, Idaho. Then this year we were going to Bend, and kind of the theme of this trip was to explore volcanic landforms. And so we camped at Tamalo State Park along the Deschutes River. We were there for 2 nights, and we visited some volcanic sites, such as Smith Rock State Park, Devil's Garden Volcanic Field, Glass Butte, and then Lava Butte. We took in total 31 people, most of them being geology club members, and this trip was free for all the club members. I was able to secure a grant in October from the department that actually paid for the trip in its entirety. And so that was a huge relief, because I know trips like this can be very expensive, and so I wanted to make sure people from all backgrounds can be included. Tumalo State Park. My apologies. I always get confused in my head.
Have people said any nice specific things to you about the trip?
Yeah, some feedback I got was even like despite all the driving, the sites we visited were very cool. One particular member noted that when going to Devil's Garden, that they wouldn't have known about that otherwise if we hadn't gone there, because it's really, really, really out there. And the only way I knew of it is because I was a nerd. So I knew of its existence because of that. And it was like also part of my bucket list to go to.
Sure.
But it was really remote, and there's a lot of cool things there. So I designed a bingo for people can find certain features related to volcanism about that.
How old are you, James?
22.
You're 22 years old.
I'm 22
and
years
you
old.
were basically a den mother for this whole group. Like, that's hard to pull off a trip like that.
Yeah, no, it was super stressful. But once we got in our rhythm, I think it went by much smoother. It was a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
Because if something would have happened, somebody got hurt, lost,
Right.
fans got damaged, then it looks bad on me, and I guess therefore the department and the club too.
But it has a happy ending.
Yes, but taking the 31 people though, I'm glad it worked out. It was such a large size, even like larger than like our department field trips.
Well, Julie was on the trip, and she's not 22, but she knows exactly what you did and how amazing you did.
Yeah, Julie, want to talk about it?
You don't have to say nice things about James, but like we're just recapping the trip and eventually answering a few questions, but I just see mostly good job, James, which is true.
Yeah,
What was
James.
it like for you?
James did a really good job.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be hard shoes to fill,
Right.
in my opinion.
Right.
It was a lot of fun. Great planning.
What was your favorite site?
Smith Rock.
Smith Rock State Park.
Yeah. But I enjoyed all of them. They were all super cool places. I think my second favorite was Devil's Garden.
Yeah, Devil's Garden, for those who don't know, is incredibly remote. You drive an hour and a half on Highway 20 east of Bend, and then you take some forest roads for like 2 hours south of there. Incredibly, incredibly remote. I only knew about it because I was a nerd. And I explored a lot of sites on the USGS.
It was in the middle of nowhere, and we ran into a Nick fan.
So, small world.
Really cool.
But no, that area has a lot of volcanic features. I think it's about 13,000 years old. There's no dates, but it has lava tubes, spatter cones, all sorts of volcanic features. So that was a site I particularly wanted to visit. And with it being Memorial Day weekend, I was expecting Bend to be extra crowded. So part of that remoteness what attracted me. So we didn't have as much people around us.
Yeah. Hello to James and Julie from Wes in England.
Hello, Wes.
Hello.
Oh, I thought maybe they'd have more questions about the trip, but maybe not. They're just impressed. So that's good enough.
I was impressed.
Yeah, I've been planning this trip since October, and so finally it being here, being executed, and being over, it was definitely like a last bang for me. It was almost like a culminating experience of my time in GEOL Club, especially with how this year's gone for club.
Right.
What if we take the club to Hell's Canyon next year?
There you go. Julie's
5-hour drive, right?
5-hour drive.
5-hour
Up to
drive.
the upper cave.
Yep. Well, you are the vice president.
I'm the
now.
vice president, yeah.
So
it's going to be fun planning it.
You will have a say, yeah.
Cool.
So why are you not going to be in class for the next 3 days? Thank you.
Yeah, so on this Thursday, we actually have to leave around I think around noon, to go to the coast for coastal geomorphology with Dr. Bree McKennis for coastal geomorphology, spending 4 days there at the beach. My group, we had to do a group project. In my group, we're just digging trenches and looking at the sedimentary structures. Then on their way back from the beach, when they get near SeaTac, they're gonna drop me off at the airport so the next day I can fly out to Albuquerque for my internship's orientation. And that will be on the last week of classes.
Internship with who?
Earthscope Consortium. This is an internship I got last year, but I was able to reapply, and as a returning intern, you get to choose where you want to go to do your summer research as long as you have somebody willing to mentor you. And actually, Dr. Kelly Wall was willing to mentor me at the USGS Cascades Volcano Observatory. Her and I wrote a grant, and the USGS funded that grant, so allowed me to do volcano research this summer and getting paid to live there through Earthscope. So it's a really, really exciting opportunity.
Good. And what happens next year for you?
Well, I'll be taking a gap year. The grad school stuff didn't work out this year, but I think a gap year will probably be very much needed. So I'm hoping to find a geology-related job, maybe something like core logging, or maybe go down south and see if there's mapping jobs available, and then hopefully enroll in grad school the following fall.
If somebody out there knows about somebody who wants to hire a geologist for 1 year maybe, or even more if you really like it, email me, okay, and I'll connect you with James.
I'm open to a lot of things, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, well.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
All right.
Okay.
Off to the business.
See ya.
Are you going up?
It wasn't that long ago that young man was in Geology 101 just across the hall. That's how things go. And if you come here to this university and take Geology 101 if you're good and work hard, within just a few quarters, you'll be doing stuff like James was talking about. So it happens faster than you might think. You don't have to pay. Back when I was young, we did 4 years of undergraduate, and there was no projects or internships really at all. And there was like a 5-year delay before you did anything real. I was a terrible student because of it. I was just craving something that I could personalize, and I didn't know it at the time. So when I finally got to grad school, I was like, wow, I get to actually do something I want to do? Crazy. And suddenly I was an excellent student, but that took me till I was 24 years old to figure that out. Couple uppercase questions before we close up today. If you still have them, maybe retype your question. I'd be happy to comment beyond what I did with the group. I wasn't sure what we were going to get today, and a few were brain dead, but most everybody else was turned on. And a few students who did very poorly on the midterm are now motivated to show that they're actually doing the work. So it's nice to see that. And I'll wait a couple more minutes, and if I don't see any uppercase, that'll be it for today. And we will be back doing this Thursday at noon, back to the Old Scab Mountain, day site, Upper Ellensburg story. And I'm very excited about a couple of angles that I didn't have until this past weekend. I have a hard time vacationing, so every morning I'm reading and scouting and hiking and thinking. I guess you can say I don't have much of a life, but I guess I view it the opposite way. I have a deep and meaningful life because I just love this stuff. It's a hobby combined with a profession. All right, I don't see any uppercase, so I'll say thank you for watching today, and I'll have you do a shot out the window here before we say goodbye. Thank you. I love you. I always forget to do the tracking thing until it's too late. All right, see you Thursday. Thanks, everybody.